we were members then of the 2nd 12th Field Ambulance, but nominated to Sparrow Force to go over to Timor.
Yes.
So although I worked with them and built Sydney William Hudson, did everything else for them, we never there at the beginning. They were formed in Cowra the year before, so you know they were a pretty good unit, acting as a field ambulance. And Nat Barton, the colonel, he was a very smart man. He'd been in the First World War, and he had a good unit.
Now, when you moved from Darwin to Timor, what date did you go over, and how did you get to Timor?
They wouldn't let us go to Timor until the Japanese declared war. They said this would upset the Dutch, so we were just wasting. I had 3 months waiting in Darwin to go over there. We could have gone to Timor earlier and set up a better thing than we had time to do, but we had to wait until Pearl Harbor. And the day after Pearl Harbor, which was about the 9th of December, I think, we went down to the wharf at Darwin with all our gear. Colonel Barton came down with us, and a lot of others, and helped us on with our trunks and things. And because the wharfies had all gone on strike. There was a general strike in Darwin just in that December. Anyhow, we got onto the West Australia, and we sailed on the 10th, and we got to Timor on the 12th. Or 13th, I can't be sure, 12th or 13th. And we waded ashore in Sapa Bazaar, and we set up shop there.
What was your first impression of Timor?
Oh, lovely. It was a new society, new culture altogether. Funny Chinese cemetery alongside us. And in the town of Kopang, there were lots of bottle shops with lovely La Crema Christi and all sorts of Portuguese wines, and we took a lot of that stuff back to camp when we got going. Oh no, it was a nice little place, Kopang.
Now you're up there with your, you didn't have a company out of the field ambulance, did you?
And a detachment.
Detachment. And what was the strength again?
My strength?
Yes. One officer?
Myself and 12 others.
And the dental officer, was he part of your setup?
No.
No?
No, I don't know who he belonged to. He was just an individual.
Yes, and this is Captain Winter, is it?
Yeah, John Winter.
So here you have a small element looking after how many troops?
We're about 1,500 in all.
Yes.
But then the two other battalions had medical officers of their own. Gillies was medical officer to the heavy battery, and Brown was the medical officer to the 2nd 40th Battalion. Yes. So they looked at, they had something to do.
Yes.
I went to the Colonel Leggett, our boss, and said, "What do I do here?" He said, "I've got no idea, Les." He said, "I don't know what you're going to do." So I said, he said, no, I said, "Can I make a reconnaissance of the whole area up this road?" And I said, "I'll set up a medical situation." So he said, "Yeah, here's my car, take as long as you like." And I drove around with my driver, and I found we'd put what I called the ADS at Babot. And we took over a school there and modified it a bit. And then further back we had the hospital. There was no CCS. We went straight from the ADS, which was at Babot, into the hospital at Champlong. And that we built quickly. And it was quite a good hospital. And Roy Stevens had arrived by then, so he said, "Well, you've done pretty well over here." And I'd already written a long letter to Nat Barton, our CO in Darwin, and telling him what I'd done, because I had no orders when I went to Timor. And he said, "Well, you've done pretty well." And I really think that's when they give you an MID, you know, because I then was prisoner of war. I don't think anyone would have recommended you for anything then.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's how it worked out. So I was virtually in charge of the medical unit, not the doctors. They were in their own infantry units, but no, I had my own sort of a unit, I called it, I suppose.
So where did Stevens fit into the scheme when he arrived?
Joined me. We were together all the time.
Yes. And I think you quite willingly said to him, "You're the senior medical officer now.
You can do the interviewing with the Japanese."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now
he did it very well too.
That's That's great. Now, I think, did you develop the medical plan, or did he, or did you do it jointly?
No, I did it all myself.
Yes.
He wasn't there.
Yes.
No, I went back to Leggett and said, look, this is what I think we ought to do. Stick to the road. You can't go, there was one road leading off to the aerodrome, but no good going up there because not to put sick people up there. So we stuck to the main road on the way up to Dili and had POW and Champlong on that.
Oh.
That was where we were. And we had plenty of ambulances, and they used to bring the sick up to Champlong, and Roy and I used to handle it. We must have had 100 beds in that hospital up there, and we had, you know, a lot of patients. There was a lot of malaria coming on then, and fractures and things that were happening. So we had plenty to do, waiting for the Japanese to invade us. We knew we'd been sent over there as a sacrificial force, so we all thought that, well, we've only got a few days left. I had a birthday on the 28th of January, so we had a little party and cakes and beer and stuff. But I thought, well, that's my last birthday.
Heavens. Now,
anyhow, we were in that mood.
Yeah. Now, there was a Dutch doctor on
yes.
Timor by the name of Henry Hecking.
Yeah.
Did you have contact with him?
Oh, yes. He met me when we landed. He came down. He was very nice. He said, oh, you're the doctor. He said, well, I'll look after you. He said, you must come up to my place. And he took me up to his home and met his wife and fed me, I suppose. And then he said, what are you going to do now? And I said, I don't know. He said, will you come and sleep in my hospital? He had a little hospital there. Not very many beds, but it was a nice little hospital. And so I slept in the hospital, as I say, with a revolver alongside me. And we did a few operations there. I remember the first one we had was a hernia. But the first operation I did on Timor was to stitch up Tom Uren's foot. He'd cut his foot as we waded ashore. So he got the distinction of being the first patient. I don't think it was recorded anywhere.
Now, I understand that of necessity, you had to do the surgery on the island. Yes,
well, you see, we were bombarded day after day for a long while, and there were an awful lot of shrapnel wounds in the legs. They pattern bombed us, and we were all living in the bush, and there were lots of people with fractures in their legs, and some of them were sent up to the hospital. But as soon as the Japanese arrived, there was my system stopped. There were no more ambulances coming up. They couldn't handle things with the war going on. They should have, but they didn't. And then when we were taken down to the camp, we found an enormous number of fractured legs, right up, more lengths, femurs, and a lot of shrapnel wounds in various parts of the body, in the arms and the chest. And so there was a lot of repair work to do, traumatic surgery. And Brown didn't want it. He had nothing to do with surgery. Gillies he was a pure little physician. He didn't want to do. I was the only one. Well, Roy was there, and he was the boss, but he didn't want to do much surgery. He'd do the ear, nose and throat stuff we had, but he was quite happy to give me anaesthetics to start clearing up this mess.
Yes.
And that's what we did for the first few weeks in our prison camp.
Yes.
Repair surgery.
Now, going back to the invasion, what was the first time you saw the Japanese? Was that when they did their paradrops, or?
No. They used to fly over in Zeros, and I was up at the aerodrome at Penfui one day. I don't know why I was up there, but I was. And a Zero came over, and the Zero was a monoplane, a very small aeroplane, but very fast. It was far faster than anything I'd ever seen, you know, from our Avro machines we had, and de Havillands and whatever they had. But this was and it had a belly tank on it, big long tank, and we knew that they were coming down from somewhere in the Salabis there, and they came down and strafed us. They strafed. So I remember the first time I was there, I had a revolver in those days. I stood behind some trees around the edge of the aerodrome, and I tried shooting this bloke. I'm sure I never hit him.